Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the organisers of the 2025 Sustainable Development Goals Asia Summit for inviting us to be part of this important carbon capture, utilisation and sequestration forum. We are sorry we cannot be with you in person in Taipei today, but it is a privilege to join you virtually. My name is Nick Lockwood, Chief Executive Officer at Airbridge, and I'm joined by Dr. Sam Rudd, our Chief Technology Officer.
Thanks, Nick, and hello everyone. My name is Sam Rod, and I'm honored to join you today.
Over the next 20 minutes, we will focus on three key things. First of all, the big picture of global carbon challenges and where CCUS sits as a mitigation tool. Secondly, a brief overview of the guiding CCUS policy and project developments in Australia. And thirdly, how Airbridge has developed an Australian innovation that turns carbon dioxide into value-added products, creating opportunities to reach net zero in an economically viable way. We hope you'll find practical insights from our journey that resonate with you on a global scale. Next slide, please. This slide is simply a standard disclaimer. The key point is that today we are presenting information for discussion and awareness only. It is not financial advice nor investment advice. It is about sharing knowledge, insights, and opportunities for collaboration. Next slide, please. We all know the climate challenge. In order to hold global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius, the world must hit net zero by 2050. I think we can all agree that the window of opportunity for that target is in jeopardy. Even with aggressive mitigation, we will still face significant volumes of residual emissions. To bridge the gap, the implementation of carbon capture technologies must rapidly accelerate. The chart here shows global emissions under different scenarios, but the takeaway is simple. Every year we wait, the problem gets bigger, and the cost impact of those emissions also becomes bigger. This is why carbon capture, utilisation and sequestration technologies are a critical part of the solution set. Next slide, please. When it comes to managing global greenhouse gas emissions, we should be looking at the hierarchy of control. At the top is elimination, stopping emissions entirely wherever possible. Then achieving reduction through efficiency improvements, doing more with less emissions. Substitution then follows, replacing processes or energy sources with lower carbon options, like renewable energies such as solar and wind power. Finally, the last step is compensation, offsetting or capturing those emissions that remain. And CCUS technologies sit within this last tier. They don't replace renewables or efficiency measures. Instead, they capture unavoidable emissions and either store them permanently or convert them into useful products that hold value in today's economy. Next slide, please. Australia has built several regulatory and policy tools to grow the CCUS ecosystem. Arguably, the most important regulatory control is the safeguard mechanism, which applies to over 200 large industrial sites, each emitting more than 100,000 tonnes of greenhouse gas emissions per year. This drives behaviour of the nation's largest emitters. To meet the targets, they are all implementing various changes in line with the control hierarchy. However, once the process efficiency and renewable energy measures are completed, many will simply be left with no option but to undertake large-scale CCUS or face reducing throughput. When meeting the safeguard mechanism limits, if companies reduce emissions below their baseline, they generate credits, safeguard mechanism credits or SMCs. These can be traded or banked. Alongside that, the government also issues Australian Carbon Credit Units or ACCUs. These are broader in nature. They are available to different projects across the economy, not just safeguarding facilities, and are awarded for verified carbon abatement. These ACCUs can also be traded. What this means is that the safeguarding facilities in Australia are locked in to SMCs and ACCUs. However, those entities that fall outside the safeguarding mechanism, of which there are many, can implement CCUS technologies and trade their offsets on either domestic or international carbon markets. Beyond the safeguarding mechanism and credits, Australia supports CCUS projects with a mix of other regulatory and policy drivers, such as changes to its hydrocarbon production legislation to enable the large-scale transport and injection of CO2. There are also a number of research grants and co-funding programs, helping the carbon ecosystem to grow. The result is a policy mix that incentivises emissions reductions while encouraging investment in new CCUS technologies. Next slide, please. What does this mean on the ground? As of this year, Australia has around a dozen projects at various stages. As shown by this graphic from Australia's CO2 Cooperative Research Council, 2 large-scale projects are fully operational: the Gorgon and Moomba CCS projects, both focused on geological sequestration. Another several are in advanced design, with pre-FEED work done. The remainder are earlier stage. So why are there so few in operation? The fact is, the effort involved with engineering, approvals, and financing makes CCS projects a slow prospect. High upfront costs and uncertainty in carbon markets also hold things back. However, we are starting to see CCU initiatives begin to emerge. Novel carbon capture projects and mineralisation projects at the demonstration scale. These are exciting because they lead to creation of new products rather than just burying CO2. That said, the Australian industry, along with much of the world, remains primarily focused on CCS for large-scale storage. And this is understandable in a country like Australia, which has the natural geological formations as well as a transferable pool of skills and experience from the country's extensive hydrocarbon industry. Next slide, please. So, which pathway should be used? Which is better, sequestration or utilisation? And the answer is, it depends. First, let's look at carbon management. CCS works well for very large, pure CO2 streams where you can send high volume, concentrated emissions down a pipeline or via tanker into geological storage. CCU, on the other hand, works at different scales, including smaller or more diluted sources. Second, we need to consider regulation and carbon credits. CCS has strong standards already in place in Australia, which provide certainty. CCU is emerging and less standardised, but it is eligible for credits if the carbon is permanently transformed into new products. And this leads to my third point, economics. CCS is always going to be a cost to the emitter. Capture, transport, and storage each at expense, with zero revenue in return. Yes, the service providers will clip the ticket on the way through, but all that expense is borne by the CO2 emitter. However, CCU gives you a chance to flip this, to treat carbon dioxide not as a liability, but as a feedstock. Turn it into fertiliser, construction materials, chemicals or fuels, things with real value in today's markets. And Airbridge's view is clear. CCS will always have a role, but if you can use carbon, you should. Carbon dioxide should not be treated as a waste, but the valuable commodity that it is. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Nick. This brings us to Airbridge. Our story began not in a shiny, dry lab, but on a mine in the Goldfields region of Western Australia. Our founder, Terry Reid, is a chemist by background. He was running a remote gold mine and using diesel generators for power supply. And it was expensive, so he asked a simple question. Could you recover carbon dioxide from a diesel exhaust and turn it back into fuel? After a series of experiments across reactor designs, Terry discovered a method to capture CO2 in a liquid process, all at ambient conditions, no high pressures or high temperatures. He then worked out the resultant solution from that pathway couldn't be used as a fuel, but could be easily transformed into a range of other high value products. This was the genesis of the Airbridge technology. It's a very Australian story of curiosity, problem solving, and innovation by necessity, and one that has now grown into a patented technology across a number of countries. Next slide, please. At its core, Airbridge technology is a gas liquid reactor that captures CO2 under atmospheric pressure and ambient temperature. What makes it unique is not just its capture efficiency, but its ability to produce downstream products. We already have proof of several, including high purity calcium carbonate and fertilizers, with more in development via collaboration with Ketan University. When we talk about carbon becoming a new industrial feedstock, this is not theoretical. We are producing those in demand products today. The Airbridge technology is capable of treating carbon dioxide across a wide concentration range, from 5% to 100% pure CO2. And with global patents secured across 16 countries, we are protecting that pathway for growth. Next slide, please. We see three priority markets for deployment of the Airbridge technology. Cement and concrete industry typically has high volume of hard to abate CO2 emissions, noting they can use the downstream limestone products. Ammonia and fertilizer production. They would be a significant part of the supply chain as both CO2 emitter and fertilizer manufacturer. Waste to energy facilities. Power stations that burn biomass or general waste, producing CO2 streams that can be captured and also recycled into urea and other fertilizers for use back in the agricultural sector. That said, our technology is flexible. It can work on virtually any emission source, with NOx and SOx emissions utilized in the downstream processes. In fact, our pilot plant in Western Australia was developed on the emissions from a 20 kVA generator. If it works there, it can be scaled anywhere. Next slide, please. Let me walk you through our journey. We began with benchtop experiments, proving the fundamentals. From there, we built integrated rigs, then progressed to a pilot plant that has a validated carbon capture efficiency of more than 90% across different CO2 sources. From this same pilot, we produce multiple downstream products, fertilizers, different grades of calcium carbonate, mining products, proving that utilization is real, not just theoretical. With our research partners, Curtin University and Lycopodium Process Industries, we are now moving our readiness index from a TRL of 5 to a TRL of 6 and above. In support, we have secured government grants to co-fund development of the next generation demonstration plan. We are also currently going through due diligence for a significant capex grant program for construction of that same facility. Next slide, please. When we look globally, we know many other groups are innovating in the CCUS ecosystem, including a range of technologies and startups. We welcome that innovation because the market is vast and the world needs multiple solutions. But Airbridge CCU technology stands out in a number of areas, particularly diversification. Our process can produce a wide range of products. We are not fixed to just one route. And economic viability. Unlike CCS concepts, our profitability is not dependent on government subsidies or a high carbon price. We generate revenue from the products themselves. This combination is uncommon, and it is why we believe we can scale sustainably. Next slide, please. We have engaged a recognized carbon accountant out of Murdoch University in Western Australia to independently quantify the carbon footprint of the Airbridge products. Here you see four sets of bars representing the carbon footprint for three products made using the Airbridge technology. The light gray represent the average carbon intensity from a global database of products and industries. The darker gray is the typical carbon intensity for a European data set. The turquoise bars represent the carbon footprint for Airbridge product when powered by fossil fuels, while the deep blue represents outcomes if renewable energy inputs are used. The outcome when powered by renewable energy inputs for creating limestone shows a 90% emissions reduction, while it shows an 80 to 97 reduction for fertilizers compared to global benchmarks. Now, yes, our own process uses energy, particularly for moving fluid around, but critically, the outputs are standard products that industry already uses, just manufactured with a drastically lower carbon footprint. Next slide, please. Rolling all this information together, we asked Lycopodium to model the capital and operating costs for the Airbridge technology. They included everything site works, hardware, and labor through to commissioning, along with maintenance, feedstock, and energy during operations. Scaled up to industrial level, about 32,000 tons of CO2 processed per year. The model shows a strong profitability, a net pre-tax profit well above 700 US dollars per ton. Compare that to CCS projects, which typically cost the emitters between 35 and 145 US dollars per ton. This is the simple choice we see. Keep bearing carbon at a cost or use it to make products and generate value from additional revenue streams. Next slide, please.
Thanks a lot, Sam. So, how will Airbridge scale? Well, it is a step-by-step journey. Today, we have a pilot facility removing about 160 tonnes per year when kept in continuous operation. The next stage is a commercial scale plant removing over 2,000 tonnes annually. Preliminary engineering is complete and we are ready to move into front-end engineering design once the site is confirmed. After that, we will progress to an industrial scale facility capable of removing over 30,000 tonnes per year from a single train, aiming for multiple trains across multiple sites. And we are realistic. We know it's a journey. Engineering, approvals, construction, and commissioning will all take time. But we are confident because, unlike most, we already have a functioning pilot plant and proof of products. This is not a dream. It is a pathway already in motion. Next slide, please. So where are we now? As I mentioned previously, our pre-feed is done. Mass and energy balances, process drawings, vessel and equipment layouts, process modelling and cost modelling are all complete. This positions us well for the next stage, to lock in an industry partner for co-location at a commercial site. From there, we finalise front-end engineering design through next year, progress to construction in 27, and begin operation from 2028. The commercial scale project will deliver around 2,100 tonnes of CO2 each year, then turn it into fertiliser and other products. This will prove the revenue model for the technology. As previously noted, this will be followed by an industrial scale facility capable of capturing over 30,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide annually. Our message is simple. We're looking for partners who want to take emissions and turn them into opportunity. If you're an emitter, an investor, a technology advocate, or a supply chain player, we would like to hear from you. Next slide, please. Let me leave you with these key points. First of all, deployment of carbon capture, utilisation, and sequestration technologies on a global scale is an essential control mechanism if we are to reach net zero by 2050. In Australia, CCS dominates the conversation, but we strongly believe that utilisation must also play a central role. And to that end, Airbridge is ready. We have a patented, proven, and scalable technology that turns emissions into globally traded commodities with real economic value. For us, carbon dioxide is not the end of the supply chain, it is the beginning of a new one. Next slide, please. Thank you very much for your time and attention today. Thank you again to the organisers of the 2025 Sustainable Development Goals Asia Summit for bringing us all together. Our contact details are on screen. Please reach out if you'd like to discuss anything from today's presentation. We look forward to building connections here in Taiwan and across the Asia region. Again, thank you.